Did you know a simple chair can completely transform your holiday decor? Join me as I take on the Deck to Chair Challenge from Sonnet's Garden Bloom's membership group. I'm going to transform my thrifted chair using some amazing Country Sampler Farmhouse inspiration for a beautiful holiday vignette. Hi, I'm Sylvia with Backyard Brushes in Fountain City, Wisconsin. And in today's video, I am challenged to use the inspiration from this Country Sampler Farmhouse magazine chair to create my own chair using thrifted items with a DIY vibes. So let's roll up our sleeves and let's get creating. I knew I wanted to use my chair that had all this really good chippy goodness, and it was cream, but I wanted a blue chair. But I didn't want to strip the chair and lose all that chippiness. So I decided to use a sweet Pickins Milk Paint, and I mixed Providence and Bluebird to get that perfect winter blue. After I mixed my paint, I did let it sit about 10 to 20 minutes so that the pigment from the paint could fully mix in with that water. I did spray the chair with the Rust-Oleum clear coat first. I was trying to maintain and protect that chippiness I already had. I then painted over the chair with the Sweet Pickins mixture. I sealed my chair with DIY white wax, and now my chair is transformed for a Winter Wonderland vintage vibe. For project 1, I am transforming these ice skates that I actually got from Connie, the painted photographer on Whatnot, and I believe they used to be her daughters. I decided I was going to use a paint inlay from IOD, and I cut out the different pieces of the inlay to fit portions of the skate. I painted the areas for the inlay with crinoline by DIY, and while that was wet, I laid the inlay down and I let them sit till they dried, sprayed them, misted them with water, and I was able to peel off the inlays. I believe they were on the heels, the tongue, and the back of the skates. And you know, it's like the big O when you get that perfect peel with the inlays. If you've been too intimidated to give the inlays a try, I get it. I have been there, but let me tell you, it is easier than you think, and I highly recommend giving them a try. I feel like it really took the skates to a whole nother level. I will also leave a link in the description box below for Sonnet's website where you can order the paint lays if you're interested in giving them a try. Once the inlays were dry, I sealed the whole skate with DIY Big Top. I then allowed the skate to dry. Once the skates are sealed and dried, I used DIY dark wax, and I just went over randomly the skate and wiped off the excess with a paper towel to kind of give it that vintage look. I didn't want it looking painted and new. I used the DIY wax on some blue crushed velvet ribbon to give it kind of an older look, and I laced up my skates, and I then tied them together. And these will be a perfect addition to my chair. For project 2, I wanted to make a pillow. So I printed out the Campfire Marshmallow download from Etsy, and I printed it out on rice paper and used the wet tear method to go around the image. Using DIY faded burlap, I painted the back of the rice paper. I knew I wanted a pillow, and I had bought the canvas tarp, but I didn't really want to sew the pillows. However, my brother was nice enough to sew me 19 pillows. So there'll be more pillows in my future. I used a medium I picked up. It's called Eileen's. It's a fabric decoupage medium I had previously picked up at Walmart. And I decoupaged the rice paper right onto the burlap, or canvas. I had originally wanted to use a transfer. However, the transfer paper I had purchased did not go through my machine, so I'm doing the decoupage method. And once it was dry, I did give it a clear coat of the decoupage medium. And when that was dry, I laid some parchment paper down and I just gave it a good heat press for 35 seconds. And I peeled it off and it was securely adhered to the canvas. Now, I was fortunate when I was at the bins in Appleton. I found some polyfiber, which was a lot cheaper paying by the pound than by the product. So I stuffed my pillow with the polyfiber, and using a hand needle, I stitched up the edge. I dampened the edges of the pillow, and then I used my finger sander to go around the edges to kind of rough up I wanted more of that frayed old look, and I actually threw it in the dryer. Using DIY dark wax, I went over the edges to give it an older feel, and I also went on top randomly of the decoupage paper, and then I wiped everything down with a paper towel. And it really was that easy. And a huge shout out to my brother Ron for sewing the pillows. For project 3, I'm using some Snowflake cookie cutters that I got off Amazon, and I mixed up some Ironstone by Sweet Pickins Milk Paint. I wanted more of that creamy color because of the back of the chair, the back color of the chair behind the blue. And I did spray the cookie cutters with Rust-Oleum paint first, and then I sealed them with Big Top. Once they were dry, I went through with the Warm Dust by DIY to make it look a little more rusty and aged. Once that was complete, I did seal it again with the DIY Big Top. For project 4, I used the extra ironstone milk paint, and I gave a terracotta pot 2 coats, and I did use the heat gun. What I didn't catch on video was I stamped it with blue china with a snowman by IOD, and I sealed it with Big Top by DIY. Using DIY dark wax, I went over my terracotta pot and I wiped off the extra wax with a paper towel to give it that used vintage vibe. I planted a Christmas cactus in my pot. Originally, this pot was going to be for a lantern, however, it didn't fit. And now it's time to deck the chair. I thrifted this embroidered table runner, and it has a light blue in it, so I thought it'd make a good background since I couldn't find a blanket that I liked. I then wrapped some ribbon onto the back of the chair, and I threaded the Snowflake cookie cutters through it. And I just tied those on. I added a doily to the corner front of the chair, and I hung my ice skates. And then I added a few pine cones and holiday sprigs with berries to give it more of that festive vibe. And nobody wants floral advice from Sylvia. It's not my forte. I like to use old books to give height. So I added a few books I had thrifted. And I used this lantern that I originally wanted to put the Christmas cactus in. However, I had to settle for some floral picks. I stuffed my campfire pillow into the back. And I used my Christmas cactus towards the front. And to tie in with the red, I added a little cardinal figurine. And then I decided the skates needed a little bit more floral. And it was really that easy. And I now have a one-of-a-kind chair that adds a touch of vintage farmhouse charm to my decor. I hope I've inspired you to try some of these projects and techniques and to add some vintage charm to your holiday decor. If you have a good idea for decorating a chair, I would love to hear what it is in the comments below. And be sure to check out the playlist. I will link it below so you can check out all the fabulous Deck the Chair Challenge videos. And a huge shout out to the Country Sampler Farmhouse magazine for allowing us to use their chair for our Deck the Chair challenge. And if you found this video inspirational, please hit subscribe below and follow me along on my creative journey. Thank you.